I wanted to make a short video about IS5 before it came out on EN. Instead, I somehow managed to hurt my back by sitting in a chair too much. Never grow old, kids. Big mistake. Well, at least my screenshots will be in English now. You know how anytime we get a random enemy that doesn't fold, when you point a meta operator at it, people start going on and on about how it's designed to counter the meta operators. Back when IS5 released on CN, there was this whole discussion on EN about how it was too hard without W, something power creep. Well, it's not true, and hearing how this event was designed all around this one operator makes my ears bleed. So before people have the chance to repeat this conversation on EN, I'm gonna explain all the new stuff in IS5 and spoil it for you. If you are one of those 5 people that prefer to avoid spoilers and play stuff for yourself, here is where you should stop the video. Let's go. We can still travel vertically in IS5, but instead of keys or numbers on a compass, we use random radioactive rocks we pick off the ground. These rocks in particular, they can be found on most stages, and apply necrosis to operators next to them. Break them to get the travel rocks. While they are in abundance, there are also way more chances to spend them. We still have boss keys, but you can also use them to upgrade certain nodes like shops or safe houses, trade them in for more hope or sell them at the shop, or finally reroll the nodes on the map. Yep, in IS5 you can reroll any non-boss node for a rather small cost. By default it rerolls between encounter, normal and emergency fight, and it's always different from what it was. That's crazy on its own, you can basically avoid any bad fight. But wait, there's more. One of the starting squads gives you one free reroll for every node. Yeah, you don't even have to waste resources to reroll combat nodes. On top of that, you are guaranteed to get a special encounter on floor 1 or 2 that lets you change your reroll pool. You get to pick between almost never getting combat nodes on reroll, with safe houses added in the pool, or almost always getting emergency fights, so you can farm a stupid amount of items. Both are quite strong. No combat nodes has been abused to beat D15 without any operators, and the emergency one can be used to stack up 100 plus items if you wanna grind for long enough. A later update will add a third option. It gives you a bunch of money and then rerolls almost exclusively to wish nodes and shops, the Nepo baby option. If you wanna win every run and barely play any stages, this one is pretty good for that. Rerolling aside, I also mentioned upgrading nodes. There are several permanent upgrades that are a pain in the ass to grind out, and after that you can spend 2 stones to upgrade every node of this type for the rest of the run. Pause if you wanna read them, I'm not gonna bother. TLDR, grind out the permanent ones, don't bother with the temporary ones cause they kinda suck. Except for the crafting bench ones sometimes. Oh right, new nodes. The hell is this one called? Pause to truth? What? Never mind. You use it to craft collectibles, so it's a crafting bench. Before I talk about it, let's circle back to the rocks. You see how they have a weight of 3? How many you can carry is determined by a few things. You start with a capacity of 5, and can increase it by assigning operators to carry your shit. Hierarchy and promotions carry more shit. Tin Man carries the most shit because he's a chat. There is no debuff to your operators from being used as pack mules. Anyhow, these rocks are called thoughts because somebody at AG has played Disco Elysium. Other than the keys, we have other kinds of rocks in our thought cabinet. You have crafting rocks that turn into collectibles. Some of them have special effects, but all of them are so boring I'm not even gonna bother showing a list. The third type of rock is the buff rock. This one can be used to bulk up before a stage. There's a variety of buffs from less DP, more attack, to making all of your ranged operators invisible. All of these rocks can be sold to Cannot for a small amount of ingots, or used at the crafting bench. Key rocks turn into hope, crafting rocks turn into collectibles, and buff rocks gives you objective shields. Mixing different rocks gives you RNG results. The rocks also have a rarity system that you don't need to care about. Higher rarity is better, and it rounds the rarity down, that's all you need to know. In addition, some of the buff rocks can be combined with other buff rocks to make better buff rocks. The combinations are all obvious, but we have a wiki if you need to look this shit up. Back to the poor abused donkey. While there is no debuff to the operators from carrying our stuff, we have some Dark Souls Encumbrance shit going on. Below this weight you're fine, doing ninja rolls. Once you get past the yellow mark, you start fat rolling. The buffs vary a bit based on difficulty, but for the most major ones, your operators cost 2 more DP, and you lose 1 life every time you go to a new node. Now, losing 1 life sounds like a downside, but it really isn't. First of all, on D15, you only have 4 lives, so unless you get some relics to increase them, you're only going to lose 3 lives from it. Then you have the objective shield stacking up from the crafting benches, that you don't lose from fat rolling. And finally we have the King's Relics. IS5 is by far the best environment for the King's Relics. You get a ton of relics, so you're likely to have multiple King's Relics. There is a special encounter that guarantees you a King's Relic, and you can manually control your lives with fat rolling to stay at 1 life while stacking so many objective shields that you have 30 plus lives anyway. So the yellow status can be abused in your favor quite a bit. It, however, has a massive downside. Every single new run, the first time you fat roll, you get a prompt. Are you sure you want to fat roll? You lose 1 life point if you fat roll. Fat rolling is unhealthy. Tick this box if you don't want me to remind you that fat rolling is unhealthy. So you tick the box so it stops reminding you not to fat roll, and then you go about your day, finish the run, go watch TV, touch some grass, do what you want. But someday in the future you decide to play IS5 a second time, and you already know that when you fat roll you lose 1 life. You try to move to a new tile, and you get a message. Are you sure you want to fat roll? Tick this box if you don't want to see this message anymore. So yeah, not many downsides unless shitty UI choices make you bleed from your eyes. If you go over into the red status, then you can't walk at all and need to discard some rocks until you turn yellow again. Finally, if you try to fat roll against the final bosses, they gain an extra phase. There's no benefit in doing this, but given how stupidly overpowered you can get in IS5, it will hardly make a difference if you do. Next, the debuffs. IS5 has both the easiest and most annoying debuffs of any IS. Shit like -4 deploy limit can kill your run if you aren't paying attention. However, all the debuffs are temporary and only last for a few nodes. No stacking debuffs, so leaking and losing lives isn't all that punished either. It's less restrictive, you don't have to worry about getting deeper in the pit, but you do need to check what debuff you get and pay attention to that, so you can account for it before you start a stage. That's the most important stuff covered. For some more niche stuff, we got 2 new nodes in IS5. The crafting bench I mentioned earlier. We get one of them on the end of every floor after the first one, and they can't be rerolled. It's still a reliable way to power up before the next floor, and it's one of the things that makes IS5 much easier than IS3 or IS4. Even if you have a bad run, you can still pick up some extra items, shields or hope to balance it out. Next we have the face-off node. In short, it's an arena fight. You pick between 3 groups of enemies from weakest to strongest, left to right, and then pick 1 or 2 of your operators depending on the stage variant and try to kill them. If you leak, you lose nothing, but if you win, you get rewards based on which fight you took. Leftmost one just gives normal stage rewards, recruit, ingots, etc. Middle one also gives a collectible on top of that, and as far as I remember, the third and hardest one doesn't drop a second relic, so it's not worth the bother unless you're sure it's a free win. We still have the boss keys from IS4, but they work differently. Instead of the boss key being unique, you get a unique relic that applies a buff and debuff. For example, plus 50 starting DP but minus 50 DP generation. This relic is only active in boss keys, so if you enter multiple boss keys, you can stack a bunch of buffs and debuffs for the boss keys. Overall, I'd say the buffs are much better than the debuffs, so stacking a bunch is no problem. And finally, let's talk about the bosses. This isn't going to be some complete breakdown, mostly cause I'm lazy, but also it's a bit pointless. All you need is to understand a couple of mechanics and you're golden. The first ending is some random old dude. He's a mystic caster and has damage reduction while he has attack stored. If you retreat an operator while the boss is alive, they get coffined like you're playing Design of Strife. When you kill his phase 1, he will reveal he's German by copying the German boss and randomly teleporting all your operators. So bait one attack, shoot him and then retreat your shit during the phase transition. Repeat for the second phase and you're done. The second ending is the hardest boss of the bunch. Teresis and Teresa. Phase 1 Teresis slowly walks around and spams shadow clones that shoot legally distinct red-black energy waves in straight lines. Kill the clones to open up some tiles and kill him. Teresis has a strong incest aura that gives him damage reduction while he is closer to his sister. It weakens as he moves away. Wait for him to fuck off and then shoot him. Phase 2 is the actual pain in the ass phase. No more shadow clones, but instead Teresis teleports back to get the full incest defense buff and doesn't move while Teresa starts spamming global damage nukes. You also get endless Sarkaz slug spawn, which are there just to annoy you. The global damage nukes become faster and faster, and eventually they kill almost everything. Use phase 1 to set up for nuking phase 2 and you should be fine. There is also a cheese to help out. Teresis is a twink. His weight is low for a boss, so you can use shifters to move him away from his sister, turn off his incestuous defense field, making the DPS check easier. However, realistically only Wikigg can do it without some help from relics. Finally, the third ending boss, Patrick. I have no clue. Anytime I've reached this stage, I had at least 80 relics and everyone did 30k damage per hit. Point operators at him, I guess. IS5 got a lot more from updates and it has 2 more endings. But while they're not too difficult, I'll save them for their own separate videos. It's irrelevant right now, and those two actually have mechanics worth talking about. So that about covers the new stuff we have on EN. I'll stream it a bunch soonish. See ya.